Okay, so good afternoon. Since wala pa yung mga ibang students, so I'm going to record na lang to for future reference for the other students. So I'm going to upload it in YouTube and I'm going to share the link para meron tayo reference for others. So for your privacy, I'm going to call you in your initials so to pick your privacy. So our topic for today is in our conversation is about a sculpture. Okay. So, if we discuss about scupture, ano nga ba yon? Okay, so present ko lang.
Yung parang sir mga grupo,
Okay.
ganun parang sculpture ni Reza, ayun na yung mga ganun.
Okay, so, yung, so, sculpture to, like Miss J said earlier, sculpture is mostly, for example, yung kay Rizal, mga ganon. Pero hindi lang naman yung rebulto na ganon. We have yung wood carvings, some stuff like that, or clay, marble, anything na natin sa basta any shape of forms with the 3D visual art. Okay. So let's start in our discussion. Oh, sorry. So question is, what is sculpture? Sculpture is the branch of the visual art that operates in three-dimensional. So pag sinabi natin three-dimensional, we can see it from in our front, our back, and the sideways. It is one of the type of the plastic arts. The durable sculpture process originally used carving. So, yung carving, syempre, usually, ito yung mga inuukit, di ba? Ganon, and modeling. So, modeling naman for creating molding by clay. So, meron din, syempre, usually we can use stones, metal, ceramics, and wood, and other materials. But since modernism, there has been an almost complete freedom of materials and process. There's a wide variety of materials that may be worked by removal, such as carving, assembled by welding or modeling, or molded or cast. So here we have an illustration. Example, the dying gold or the capital gold. That example here, as you can see, dahil white siya, ang ginamit po dito ay marble. So, isa rin to. Okay, so one of the creation ni Michelangelo na Moses. So sculpture has been central in religious devotion in many cultures, and until recent centuries, large sculptures, too expensive for private individuals to create, were usually an expression. Mostly, that time, they're going to create this for religion, for the gods, lalo yung mga Greek mythologies. And then yung sa politics, kunwari mga examples sila Caesar, mga ganon. Those cultures or sculptures have survived in quantities include the cultures of the ancient Mediterranean, India, and China, as well as many in Central and South America and Africa. So we have two types of sculptural techniques. One, we have yung subtractive, and then two is additive. So, subtractive, the process of cutting away from a block of wood or stone and gradually revealing the desired shape. So, example, we're going to create an anito, di ba? So, we're going to use, syempre, parang grown tree, yung ano na siya, malaki na. And then, we're going to cut everything. Syempre, kung gagawa ka ng anito, di ba, parang usually, kaya totem, patayo siya. So, kung gagawa ka na nito, hindi mo siya pwedeng i-stretch yung mga kamay or yung stretch yung mga paa. Babase ka dun sa shape ng form ng pagka-carving mo. Kasi, syempre, ang puno, isang diretso lang yan. Well, possible na meron mga nakaliko-liko, pero ibabase mo yung carving mo dun. Hindi ka pwede magdagdag. So, yun yung tinatawag na subtractive. So, usually, mga subtractive ay woods. And then we have sa second sculpture technique, which is additive. Additive is the method of clay modelers who add lumps or clays to a core and works out the desired shape. So example, if we are going to buy an earth clay or a Play-Doh clay, so syempre ang shape nun, di ba, pagka binuksan mo is cup size, so naka siya, cylinder. Parang cylinder siya. And then, syempre, paano kung pagka-pipigyo ng tao? And then, we're going to create, for example, from the start natin, gagawa tayo ng bilog. So in case na gagawa tayo ng tao na sculpture, we're going to add additional details. So parang ididikit natin yung kamay, paa, and so on. So additive. And then next, we have what we use in materials in sculpture. Okay. So one, we have used as seen in our illustration, we have the stone, and then second is the wood. Wood ba to? Tama, wood nga. Hindi. Ano to? Oh, tama, wood. And then, terracotta. And then, ito yung bronze. Mukha lang kahoy. Bronze. And then, the last one, we have the casting. So, first, okay, wait, check ko lang. Okay, so, we have yung stone. Siyempre, pag sinabing stone, it is a carving in an ancient activity where pieces of rough natural stone are shaped by the controlled removal of stone. Because of its performance as material, the early societies indulged in some forms of stonework. Siyempre, yung mga stone sa pagdating sa sculpture, siguro I think may mga nakita na tayo nun, yung parang yung malalaking sa ibang bansa. So, yun, gamit nila stone. So, pinupokpok nila yun. Sa stone, yung pag-ano yun, ang ginagaang tatawag doon ay engraving. So, in engraving, we have yung types natin ng engraving. One, we have yung petroglyphs. Well, is the earliest forms of image created by removing parts of the rock, which remains incising, pecking, and carving and engraving. Second, we have yung monumental sculpture. It covers large works and architectural sculpture which is attached to buildings. And third, we have yung hardstone carving. In the carving for artistic purposes of semi-precious stones such as jade, agate, onyx, rock crystal, sand, or carnelian, and a general term of an object made this way, engraved gems are small carved gems including cameos originally used as seal rings. So, pagdating sa stone, mga example nito ay tulad ng mga marble, yung mga puti na parang ay puti na bato. O kaya, one example is granite. Ito yung medyo matigas-tigas. And then, proceed tayo sa second that we have is wood. So, sa wood, it is a form of working woods by means of a cutting tool held in hand, resulting in a wooden figures or figurine or in a sculpture ornamental of the wooden object. If you ever went to Baguio, so yung mga souvenir store nila, so makikita nyo, marami silang mga carving doon na parang I love Baguio City, mga ganun yung pinakarve yung mga pangkamot, mga baso, ashtray, na gawa sa kahoy, mga ganun bagay. And then, terracotta. So, as you can see, ito yung parang mga, kung familiar kayo sa mga jar or yung paso, the clay is shaped, glazed, and baked. And then, fourth is bronze. It's the most popular metal for cast metal sculptures. And then, common bronze alloys have the unusual and desirable property of expanding slightly just before they set, thus peeling the finest details of a mold. Their strength and lack of brittleness is an advantage when figures in action are to be created, especially when compared to various ceramic or stone materials. And then last, we have yung casting. So, pagdating dito sa casting, not sure kung familiar kayo sa panday. Diba yung pinupukpok na gano'n, tutunawin niya paano sa apoy, tapos yun, kukote, pupukpok hanggang sa makuha yung desired na shape. So, casting is a manufacturing process by which a liquid material is poured into a mold, which contains a hollow cavity of the desired shapes and allowed to solidify. Solid casting is ejected or broken out to complete the process. Casting is used to form hot liquid metals or various materials that will set after mixing of components. It is most often used for making complex shapes that would be otherwise difficult or uneconomical to be made by other methods. And then, we have yung what we call the type of sculpture. First, we have the pictorial sculpture, sculpturist, and then built-up sculpture. Sa first, yung pictorial sculpture, ito yung type ng sculpture na yung kung saan yung artist or yung painter ay mas concerned sa details nung ginagawa niya. So, parang, tawag dito, kunwari gusto niyang gumawa ng tao na sculpture, talagang detalyado. And then, sculpturist is a type of sculpture in which the artist is more concerned sa mga materials na gagamitin niya, sa strength, yung kunwari, ato may magtatagal lang 100 years, mga ganun. Its surface quality and its tactile value. And then sa breadth of sculpture, ito yung the artist much concerned with the materials na ginagamit niya at yung mga detalye. So parang ito yung pinagsamang pictorial at sculptures. Okay. So, pag natin, discuss natin yung mga type of sculptures around the world. Okay, so first, we have yung Eigen sculpture. So, sa Eigen sculpture, ito yung parang nila, yung tawag dito, Minoan, Mycenaean civilization that gumagawa sila ng sculpture nila. The foremost Eigen sculpture is a pre-palace aged by the marble Cycladic idols. If you can look in this image, blanco yung mukha niya, and then yung ilong niya is pa-triangle. So, yung ganito ay na-discover siya sa Cycladic Islands, usually sa mga graves ng mga mga ninuno nila. Most are individuals in a cross-arm position, cross-arm. So, yung kamay nila kagayto. And then some are engaged in activity and some are group sculptures. The smooth contours and simple geometry of these figures are uncannily reminiscent of modern art. Okay, second, we have yung Palace Age. So, sa Palace Age, ito yung sa Minoan, art gradually took from throughout the pre-Palace Age, then flourished during the Palace Age. The Minoan sculptured in usually clay and bronze. Ivory, wala tayong sample ng ivory. And stone. They produce many figurines, both humans and animals. Bulls and bulls jumpers were particular favorites. So, sa the largest surviving works of Minoan sculptures are numbers of vessels, some carved in relief, others sculptures into figures. At the small end of the scale, the Minoans are renowned for their delicately engraved stone seals as well as fine gold work. Kung makikita naman dito, detalyado na siya. So, kung sinabi natin detalyado, ito ay tinatawag na sculpturist. Isa rin dito, detailed din to, sculpturist din siya. So, geometric art. So, sa geometric art, kung makikita nyo siya, meron siyang pattern. Parang ganito, parang zigzag, hindi siya zigzag parang letter S na dikit-dikit, and then so on, may mga square na gano'n. Yun nga dahil sabi nga, geometry. So, base sa shapes. So, yung geometric art is based sa tawag dito sa Greek art. So, characterized largely by geometric motifs in base painting that flourished towards the ends of the Greek Dark Ages. Ito ay during 900 and 700 BC, its center was in Athens, and from there, the style spread among the trading cities of the Aegean. The Greek Dark Ages last from 1100 to 700 BC and include two periods, the Proto-Geometric period and the Geometric period, in reference the characteristic of pottery style. The basis has a various use of purposes within Greek society, including but not limited to funerary base and symposium bases. Okay, so next we have yung Daedalic period. The Daedalic sculpture, so you can see here, nakikita naman na parang siya. So, Daedalic period types of sculpture attributed to legendary Greek artist Daedalus, who is connected in legend both to Bronze Age Crete and to the earliest period of archaic sculpture in post-Bronze Age Greece. The legends about Daedalus recognize him both as a man and as a mythical embodiment, and then the writer Pausanias thought that wooden images were referred to as the Daedalus even before Daedalus' time. Daedalic sculpture reveals Eastern influence known as Orientalism in Greek art. So, ang dito is you can see, if you notice, ang ulo ay malaki, Tapos para siyang may wig. Ang ilong ay angular, and then yung mga mata niya ay malalaki. So, pag natin, usually the female body is rather flatly geometric with high waist and formless drapery. Early sculpture exhibiting this attribute is known as dadalit. It was used for figurines on clay plaques and in relief decoration on vases. So, balik natin sa image natin. So, kung makikita, based sa mga illustration dito, tulad nito, yung, ba sa Tagalog yung waist? Bewang, okay? So, yung bewang niya ay, kurbang-kurbang, mga sexy, parang ganon. And then, tapos, yung nila is, yung pose nila ay parang malaking, yung nakatindig talaga. So, talaga sila na, parang proud, something like that. Ganon yung sculpture ng dadalit. Okay. So, next we have yung classical period. So, yung classical period ay from ancient Greece and ancient Rome. So, it refers to, tawag dito, ito yung mga panahon na tawag dito, yung politics or gods ang dinidesign nila. Tawag dito, makikita yung mga facial expression. So, and then usually, pagdating sa classical, sa Greece, ang mga sculptures sila ay nakahubad. And then if you look, yung image natin dito, so parang parang dito. Okay. So makikita na ito. Yun yung may symbolism nila. So, parang, ayan. Ayan. So, refers generally to sculpture from ancient Greece and ancient Rome, as well as the Hellenized and Romanized civilization under the rule of influence from about 500 BC to around 200 AD. Tapos, it may also refers more precisely a period within ancient Greece sculpture from around 500 BC to the onset of Hellenistic style around 323 BC. In this case, usually given a capital C, which is in terms of what we call the classical. It is also widely used for a stylistic tendency later sculpture, not restricted to a work in a neoclassical or classical style. So, yun nga tulad ng sabi natin, the main subject of ancient Greek sculpture from its earliest days was the human figure. Usually, male and nude. Okay? Apart from the head or portrait sculptures, the bodies were highly idealized but achieved unprecedented degree of naturalism. In addition to freestanding statues, the term classical sculpture incorporates relief works such as the famous Elgin marbles of the Parthenon and the platen-based bas-relief styles, whereas sculptures works emphasize the human form reliefs were employed to create elaborate decorative scenes. Okay. So, natin, okay. So, pagdating the first Greek statue na exhibit nun ay yung by kay Critios Boy noong 480 BC. Contrapposto soon became a defining element of Greek sculptural techniques, culminating Polycritus canon. The canon is theoretical work that discuss ideal mathematical proportions for the parts of the human body, proposed for sculptures of the human figure and other dynamic counterbalance between the relaxed and tense body parts and between the directions in which the part moves. Polycritus sought to prove the accuracy of his calculations by implementing his rules in a statue simplified entitled the Canon. And then, syempre, pagdating doon, yung mga templo nila ay may mga sculpture. The large sculpt statues that they believe that placing shrines. So, parang, I think, familiar naman kayo sa shrine. Ito yung pinag-aalayan ng mga yung pagkain, mga ganon, para sa mga gods. Sa Dahil parang gusto nila kunwari, ma-bless sila nung mga gods nila nung time ng classical period sila. So, for example, sabi na gusto nilang umulan, gusto nilang something na dumami yung mga pananim nila, mga ganun bagay. So, yun, gumagawa sila mga rebulto nila. So, and then, sculptures were not only creating works for temples, but also for mortuary statues to show tribute to deceased loved ones. The sculptures would often show the deceased person in a relaxed pose. Example, mga successful athletes and rich families would commission statues of themselves for temples to show respect to the gods. In the 5th century, BC portraits became popular and bust featuring generals. Pag bust naman, ito yung mula ulo hanggang dibdib na sculptures. And then philosophers and political leaders appeared. So, syempre, ang pagdating sa tawag dito, sculpture, ang Greek ay, ang tawag nila sa tawag dito, sa type of sculpture nila ay built-up sculpture dahil focus sila sa details and then dun sa gagamitin. Kaya makikita mo na ang mga works ng mga ancient Greek ay nakaka-attract. And then, dahil dun, yung mga Italian, which is yung Renaissance, nagkaroon ng interest din sa pagdating sa paggawa ng sculpture. Tulad ng kanilang image natin, si Michelangelo. He's one of the famous Italian artists. Okay? It's a great influence both Etruscan and later Roman art. The enthusiasm with which Rome Greek art has proven important not merely because of the transmission of classical Greek style, but also because most of the extant classical Greek works survive mainly in the form of Roman marbles, copies of print bronze originals. As a bronze has always been a valuable metal, most of the originals were likely long ago melted down, and the few genuine survivals have been found by mostly in the context of shipwrecks. But Greek bead carved marbles and a number of classical Greek marbles have survived. So, kung nanonood kayo ng mga National Geographic or mga History Channel, makikita nyo pa yung mga nakuha sa mga ilalim ng dagat, yung mga nakasurvive sa mga parang catastrophe ng time nila yung time nila. Meron pa rin mga minsan yung mga na-carve na tulad ng mga marble, siguro after almost 100 years, may mga putol, kamay, ganon, pero pa rin masasabi pa natin na pwede pa rin i-consider na as a sculpture. So yun, topic natin for about the sculpture. So later on, I think later on, actually ko na pala, tawag dito, nag-assign na ako ng activity para sa inyo. And then quiz. So quiz, I think this is, I'm not sure kung true or hindi. Okay, so quiz natin ay tawag dito. Write the correct answer. So capital letters and then tawag dito, tamang term, di ba? Hindi pwedeng kunwari, for example, sinabi may question na ganito. So, refers generally to sculpture from ancient Greece and ancient Rome. Hindi pwedeng ilalagay classical lang. Lalagay mo classical space period, capital letters. So, nakalagay na naman sa natin, sa quiz. So, kapag kunwari, nag-check ako mamaya and then nag-zero kayo, hindi ko na cargo yon dahil hindi kayo sumunod sa instruction. Ngayon, sa activity naman, yung quiz pala ay deadline ay Friday. Ang activity po natin is to create a sculpture and then dun sa sculpture na gagawin nyo, i-describe yung medium of art. So, if we discuss about the medium of art, this is what about the form, shape, texture, etc. Ito'y nasa natin, week 3 ng topic natin. So, refer na lang sa Google Classroom class natin. Okay? If you have any question and about sa topic, doon na lang po mag-comment sa post dito sa Google Classroom. Okay? So, ang deadline naman ng ano natin ay tawag dito, next week. Because the following week is holiday, so Holy Week. So, wala tayong online class, wala tayong asynchronous or follow-up activities. Okay? So, yun na po yung topic natin. Okay, you may go now. Okay, so, bakit ka, okay, you can log out now. Except for magsarili. Mr.